We'd like to welcome you back to our current event and weekly Bible study for December 28th, 2015. And again, like I said, I'm just changing the day, moving it ahead one day in the last part there. So this is part 2. And the next report is entitled Meet Your Executioners. They must disarm you before they can kill you. And this is the first step to ensure that the right to keep and bear arms is not unlimited. And we'll explain this in a second. The Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Nowhere in the Second Amendment does it mention limits. In fact, it specifically states it shall not be infringed, which makes one wonder if any of the Democrats listed below are also known as your executioners, understands what shall not be infringed means, as they are co-sponsoring a bill which states outright. Now, this has nothing to do with the first report. This is just confirmation of what Dave Hodges' sources were telling him are going to be implemented in 2016, or what they're going to try to implement. Okay, so this is just, now we're going to start to look at, okay, is there any evidence of this? Now, obviously, you can look back in the just recent years, and there's tons of evidence of this. But this is just in the last, really the last 3 or 4 days. I can't even keep up with the news. Even putting out the newsletter that I put, the newsletters that I put out, and then this, you just can't even keep up with it all. It's so voluminous, the amount that you're trying to deal with. So, and again, this is part of the New World Order's plans to just so overwhelm you and, wear you out, tire you out, and with all of the different barrages of ways they're coming after you, and it's part of their tactics. So to regulate assault weapons, to ensure that the right to keep and bear arms is not limited and for other purposes. Okay, hold on, I kind of got ahead of myself here. So one has to wonder if any of the Democrats listed below, also known as your executioners, understands what shall not be infringed even means, as they are all co-sponsoring a bill which states outright, quote, to regulate assault weapons to ensure that the right to keep and bear arms is not unlimited and for other purposes. So now I'm not going to go through all this and all the names and all this other stuff, but it is in the PDF for this date. This is going to be probably about a 24-page PDF that we're looking for at the date of 12/28/2015. The bill is H.R. 4269. There's a link here you can go to. Type in 4269 in the search box at the top, then click on H.R. 4269 to bring yourself to the bill. Then click the word text to read the entire thing. And he's got links to this already anyway. There will be certain points highlighted below, but this way readers can read it directly from the congressional website. And then it goes through all the executioners, all these Democratic devils that have all sold their soul to Satan. And it's a very large list. Going forward, it says they must disarm you before they can kill you. The below is a chart created in 2002. Showing which governments passed gun control laws and how many millions were massacred after the passage of said gun laws, and which laws preceded the genocide. Note the right-hand column where it is abundantly clear that a ban on possession and or confiscation, aka gun control, always comes before the mass murder by tyrannical governments. It's always. I mean, this is just cause and effect. Every single time. And I'm not going to go through all these because it's quite a few, but it goes through the Ottoman Turkey in 1950 to 1917, Soviet Union, 1929 to 1945, Nazi Germany, 1933 to 1945, China, Nationalist China, 1927 to 1949, Red China, Guatemala, Uganda, Cambodia, Khmer Rouge, and Rwanda. And it goes into all the specifics about this if you want to avail yourself to that. And then we get into the actual text of H.R. 4269. And I'm not going to read this all, but you've essentially got the gist where I guess it's what they're saying is it's their assault weapons ban of 2015. Now we're going to look at another, and then it goes through all the specific things that they're banning. They're wanting to ban all AKs, all ARs, but actually it's way, way more above that. I mean, this is quite a few pages of this alone. I'm just kind of scrolling through it right now. We're going to listen to another video after this who actually he went into it a little bit further, and I don't want to give too much away, but you'll see what he has to say. The bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, they are trying to infringe on Americans' rights to keep and bear arms, a right that has been affirmed by the Supreme Court in 2010 with the statement, quote, "It is clear that the framers counted the right to keep and bear arms among those fundamental rights necessary to our system of ordered liberty." And that's the corrupt Supreme Court that said that in 2010. H.R. 4269 has only been introduced by the listed would-be executioners above, and it is up to every single Second Amendment supporter to call your elected representative, fax them, write them, use the online contact forms. Either we stand up and speak out in one united voice, or they will continue to strip our constitutional guaranteed rights by simply changing the Second Amendment itself. It is a fact that throughout history, the mass murder of citizens has been preceded by some form of gun control, because the government cannot become a true tyranny or dictatorship when the citizens are armed and capable of then defending themselves, not just against criminals, but from tyrants. Here's a directory that can be found at senate.gov of the senators, and then their directory of the members of the House of Representatives. I give you the links here. If you are unsure who your senator or House representatives are, you can search using your address and zip code. 2 links here and here. I'll give you all that. It's in the PDF. And also, I think a good thing to do is to become a member of Gun Owners of America. NRA is, they're not anywhere near what they need to be regarding policing this. They're not even anywhere near. Gun Owners of America is about the closest thing I found to actually really going after these types of things. And they haven't even released anything yet on this. They have a report up there now on this. But what you can do is, and this is off their site, it says the anti-gun left is pulling out all the stops and is now calling for gun confiscation. We have to meet fire with fire. So forward this alert to 10 people. Encourage your pro-gun family and friends to sign up for our GOA, Gun Owners of America alerts. And there's a link here. Or you can go, just do a keyword search for Gun Owners of America. But there's a link here that you can click. You can get their free alerts. They don't cost anything. And these are things that you can do to be proactive, to inform your friends and family what's going on, because this is just total insanity. Now, I'm going to go ahead and play this another short video regarding this. This came out after this report, and it's entitled "House Democrats Introduce Bill to Ban All Guns in America Except Single Shot." So here's another take on this. And it has a little thing here by William S. Burroughs, who says, after a shooting spree, they always want to take the guns away from the people who didn't do it. Isn't that true? That's what they always do. Everyone needs to be punished, who had nothing to do with the crime. And there's a very high likelihood if the people that they wanted to take the guns away were actually there armed, they would have prevented a certain, maybe the whole thing, maybe a percentage of people being killed. But they don't ever want to emphasize that. They want to just do it's so mentally insane, their premise. It's the exact opposite of the truth. So I'm just going to let this play here.
Today is December 26, 2015. I hope everyone had a good Christmas. This was sent to me by someone else, and it is dated December 16th, 2015, which means this was...
Now, this is the same bill we were just talking about, H.R. 4269.
Probably put together years ago in anticipation for the right moment. This is the actual H.R. bill, House Resolution 4269 from the House Democrats. The communist, freedom-hating, free speech-hating, gun-grabbing traitors in the Congress want to ban every single gun in America except for single shot and bolt action. This is the Australian gun control.
Now, he's saying because of the way he's interpreted this, that it's actually not just going after the assault rifles. It's every other gun but single shot and bolt action. That means they come after all the handguns as well. Okay? Revolvers, everything. And to me, this is so audacious from the standpoint of that we just had the #1 record month ever of gun sales, and I'm sure probably ammunition sales in America in this last month. And so the very thing where we have this gigantic push, this unbelievable proactive push of Americans getting armed to the teeth, and yet they have the audacity to come back and say, no, we're gonna take all of these guns that you've purchased in mass, particularly since Obama's been in office, because he's been the best gun salesman that the world's ever known. We're gonna come after those very things. It's just mind-boggling
that we have heard so much about. And if you want to know what that means, this is the full disarmament of the American people. Single shot and bolt action guns are the types of guns you give your kid as their first gun when you want to teach them how to shoot. It is not the type of gun you should have if you want to protect your home. And you see, that's what the communist politicians want. They want to steal your land via Agenda 21 code enforcement. They want to regulate you out of your car. They want to confiscate your bank account via bail-ins. And they want to force Islam in your town. All the while, you will be forced to tolerate it, while at the same time, they will be allowed to be racist and bigoted towards you. I like how in this country that we live in, that I call America with a K, you are Islamophobic if you don't want Muslims burning down churches in your town. But all the liberal atheists out there who hate Christians and who want to ban anything in public that pertains to Christianity aren't called Christian phobic. See how that works? We are living in a time of great deceit and everything is being turned inside out. Don't believe me? Well, the Woman of the Year was a man. How's that for a society that is regressing, all in the name of progress, of course?
Now, he's in reference to good old Bruce Jenner there, now known as Caitlyn. What an abomination. I can't even stand to look at that creature. I mean, wow. We're talking wow. But yeah, everything is upside down. Woe to them that call evil good and good evil. That is 100% becoming more the norm every day.
So let's take a closer look at this. Right here at the top, it says to regulate assault weapons to ensure that the right to keep and bear arms is not unlimited and for other purposes. So the Democrats in the Congress are trying to rewrite the Second Amendment right now. What part of shall not be infringed do they not understand? In my opinion, every single one of these people here, including Mr. Aguilar, they should all be brought up on treason charges for even dreaming this up. This is the usurpation of the American people. Do people not see what's really going on here? We have all these fake movements going on around the country, like Black Lives Matter, like all these college students who think they need a safe space because they have a right to not be offended. We got men wearing dresses who think they should be going into the ladies' room. And all these people think they are fighting for civil rights like they're a part of history. But meanwhile, our real Bill of Rights is being stolen from us right now. It's time to wake up, folks. Why do you think the U.S. government is stockpiling as much ammo and weapons as it can, while at the same time it's trying to take ours? So let's see what they say in their own words, what it is they want to do. So if you come down to section 3, it says, it shall be unlawful for a person to import, sell, manufacture, transfer, or possess, in or affecting interstate or foreign commerce, a semi-automatic assault weapon. So we are going from assault weapons to semi-automatic assault weapons, and that's a big difference. Then it says, paragraph 1, which is right here, shall not apply to any firearm that A, is manually operated by bolt, pump, lever, or slide action, has been rendered permanently inoperable, or is an antique firearm. This right here is the Australian gun control, where they banned everything except single shot. You are not able to protect your home or protect your constitution with only one shot when the government has full-on machine guns. And so if you come on down here to the bottom, you can see everything that is exempted, and it's a bunch of bolt action, lever, single shot rifles that really you are not able to do very much with. And so the good news is this has no chance of passing, because this is the only thing that the Republicans have yet to sell out on. And I wonder why. This is the only thing that the Republicans are still good for in this country, and that is voting in favor with the Second Amendment.
Okay, so that's all he has for that. That was his opinion. But then I looked at the comments below because I was kind of interested to see what people had said about this video. And this is from Bonnie Beam, and she says, anyone who thinks that the Republicans would not go along with the gun ban may want to reconsider how they feel about it, since the Republicans just went along with the omnibus spending bill that's expletive every single American. Something tells me you're going to see they almost unanimously vote in favor of a gun ban. Now, I can't see that happening. Not this soon. They maybe, 5 or 6 false flags from now. I don't know. That would be mind-boggling, because it would literally be, it'd be World War III in this country. It'd be the massive pushback on this. But yes, the Republicans just did sell us out again to an unbelievable degree with the spending bill. Funded everything they said they wouldn't fund. Planned Parenthood, bring in more illegal aliens, bring in more Muslims. I mean, it's like, honestly, they're totally on the same team as Obama. It's just a facade of that they're putting up of, oh, we're still Republicans, we're still fighting for you. No, they want to see us all die too. They want to see that. These entities that are in Congress and Senate and this type of stuff, they're evil. And I believe basically across the board they're pretty much all evil. I mean, okay, maybe there's some exceptions. I don't know at this point. You don't get to those positions of in Congress and in the Senate and those types of positions unless you have typically some heavy duty connections and you've sold your soul to Satan, essentially. For the most part. I mean, so anyway, that was her comment. And then a guy named Michael Rivera says the actual text of this bill is here, and he gives a link to it. He says, read it carefully. The bill defines virtually every kind of auto-loading gun as an assault weapon. Okay, so I think he's trying to reiterate what this man was saying. The goal is not to stop crime, as most of these weapons are not used to commit the crimes, but to hand the military, the criminal, this would be the criminal military, an advantage, because I'm not going to say all the military is criminal, but the criminal faction, Homeland Security, FEMA, these types of people, to hand them a military advantage to the government in advance of a population angered to the point of rebellion by further confiscation of our wealth and our children for more wars of conquest. The bill is a complete violation of the Second Amendment. The United States Supreme Court ruled in Marbury versus Madison that laws repugnant to the Constitution are automatically null and void, and I agree. The United States Supreme Court also ruled in United States versus Miller that the Second Amendment reserves to the people arms equal to those carried by the uniformed governmental forces. Given that the purpose of the Second Amendment is not hunting or target shooting, but arming the people against the rise of tyranny. This bill proves tyranny is alive and well in Sodom on the Potomac. This bill proves that Congress has gone off the constitutional reservation they're supposed to confine themselves to. And by that act, they have proven that they are no longer the legal and legitimate government of this nation. As a result, the American people are under no legal or moral obligation to obey such a government, pay its bills, or sacrifice the lives of their children in the government's wars of conquest. The Constitution preserves the advantage of being armed, which Americans possess. Okay, and this is a quote from James Madison, Federalist, paper number 46. He said, "The advantage of being armed, which Americans possess over the people of almost every other nation, where the governments are afraid to trust people with their arms." Then another quote, debate at the U.S. House of Representatives, August 17, 1789, by Elbridge Gerry says, "What, sir, is the use of militia? It is to prevent the establishment of a standing army, the bane of liberty. Whenever government means to invade the rights and liberties of the people, they always attempt to destroy the militia in order to raise a standing army upon its ruins." Now, if you were able to confiscate all the guns in America, that would be essentially doing away with any type of constitutional opposition against this criminal government. So it's basically saying the same thing, here. Thomas Jefferson Papers, page 334, says, "The strongest reason for people to retain the right to keep and bear arms is as a last resort to protect themselves against tyranny in government." Okay, so they were all well aware of these things. Then we have this, and this is another totally separate thing that's going on right now. Illinois is beta testing the gun confiscation laws. H.R. 0855, and it says its title is Second Amendment, Not an Individual Right. Illinois attempts to ban private ownership of firearms. Many A&P readers, All News Pipeline, have been concerned over the latest attempts on the part of Democrats in Congress to strip away more of the American Second Amendment rights with their assault weapons ban of 2015. That's what we just were talking about here. This was introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives with the stated purpose being to regulate assault weapons to ensure that the right to keep and bear arms is not unlimited and for other purposes. What slipped through the cracks, though, while our attention was focused on, it slipped through the cracks while our attention, I just got this, and then I turn around, and then this is there. It's like you don't even have any time to have any attention on anything, because they're introducing something new the next minute, it seems like. While our attention was focused on the introduction of the U.S. congressional bill, was that another state, in this case Illinois, that in that state it was filed with the Illinois House of Clerks on November 6th, 2015, and was sponsored by 3 Democrat state representatives, Emanuel Welch, Pamela Reeves Harris, Jamie Andrade, which directly challenges the Supreme Court ruling in District of Columbia versus Heller, which held that the Second Amendment protects an individual's right to possess firearms and that the city's total ban on handguns, as well as its requirement that firearms in the home be kept non-functional, even when necessary for self-defense, violated that right. Okay, that was the ruling. And, this is ridiculous, the Supreme Court ruling. Okay, but they're challenging this. These 3 demon-possessed vessels of Satan Democrats are challenging this in the Illinois, through this Illinois congressional bill. The Illinois bill, H.R. 0855, and it's titled Second Amendment, Not an Individual Right. That's what it's titled, unbelievably. There's a link to it here. Right straight to the legislation website. Is far more dangerous in language and intent than the assault weapons ban of 2015, because there is little chance the weapons ban will pass. Meaning, what we just went over, they're saying there's little chance. But you know what? If there's not enough outrage, if there's not enough pushback, and I've said this for years, that gives the Illuminati the green light that, okay, well, they didn't really put up much of a fuss there. Yeah, we're not going to pass it this time, but, now we're going to have this gigantic series of false flag events that are supposedly going to be, what I think they're going to do, this is my opinion, they've got to demonize law-abiding, Second Amendment believing, First Amendment believing, righteous gun owners. They have got to paint them as the worst slime and filth on earth. A Muslim mass murdering event's not really going to do that. Now, that's coming. I believe that's coming. We're going to talk about that more later. But what would far serve Satan better in this particular case would be to orchestrate, and I think what they're trying to do a lot with this as well is create such rage among lawful, righteous Second Amendment gun owners that they would actually, I don't know, go out and take out their frustrations in a tangible way using firearms, which I would never advise. Okay, but they're trying to bait people into doing this. They're being so flagrant, so in your face, and people are probably becoming so frustrated with this that some of the populace, and let's say there's a certain sect of the populace, like let's say the KKK, or one of these really, 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 let's say militias that are out there that really they're not really on the cause of righteousness. They're really wanting to go out there and just let's let the killing begin. They've been waiting for, let's say, an excuse. And I'm talking about the fringe elements of, I'm not talking about a good, well-regulated militia that are, these people are wanting to protect the Constitution, protect their families, protect America, from this. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people that literally, let's say they're even governmental mind control slaves that they trigger, okay, and that they can blame everything on them. If we had a series of events, whether it was real or unreal, meaning whether they were real Second Amendment owner people that were actually doing this, which I really highly doubt, or whether they were like, let's say, kind of some government controlled sleeper cell that painted itself as some pro-Constitution, pro-Second Amendment, pro-Bible, everything that they can demonize in that demographic. That would be the result of whatever the next mass shooting is. Enough is enough. They go out and supposedly, let's say there's a series of this, which would be even worse. Then Obama can come to the microphone and say, well, listen, you look at these savages. Look at what they've done. And now we're going to have to enact all of this other stuff. We're going to have to just take a total ban on guns. We're going to take all the ammo. We're going to, and this is what I don't want to say my fear, but is what I would be concerned about. So that would be something I would pray specifically against, because Muslims coming in and like creating some false flag event, that doesn't serve their narrative near as well as the narrative I just gave you. The other narrative means they come after us and can overtly do it and look like they're being the good guys doing it. Because they'll broad brush everything. They'll put us, anybody who's pro Second Amendment, into the same camp as whatever other mind control slave group that they just triggered that carried out some mass shooting. Where they will, by default, we will all be with them. Because it'll be so convenient. And then everybody can point the finger and wag the finger at the pro-Second Amendment. They're the source of all evil, particularly white men with guns, because that seems to be their biggest penchant. They really want the white men with guns. They're the source of all evil on the planet. Pro-Second Amendment, pro-life, pro-Bible believing, pro-Constitution. They're the source of all evil on the planet. I'm not saying they want to come after somebody if they were black and pro-Second Amendment and pro-righteous and pro-constitutional, but again, there's been a gigantic push to demonize white men in particular. I just put out more information on that in the last newsletter I sent out. It's not my imagination. Talk about racism, but it's, against whites. So, just looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, how when I see things like this, the wheels in my head start turning, and I start thinking, okay, how could they pull this off? And still come out supposedly looking like the good guy, or having some facade of looking like the good guy. Well, I believe they have to further, to a much greater degree and much greater level, demonize the law-abiding gun owners of America. And that's the only way I can really see them being able to, go up there in some frothing rage and fervor saying, oh, look at what they've done. We're taking all the guns away. We're on martial law. I can see them doing it under that circumstance. True, they could impose martial law if the Muslims came and they activate all their sleeper cells. And obviously, that's a gigantic part of the agenda. Huge part of the agenda. We're going to look at that next. I mean, Obama is doing everything he can possibly do to bring these devils, these savages into this country, and to get them all pre-positioned for when they give the green light. And that's why I'm saying it's 2016. Unless God intervenes in a huge, mighty way. And I know God's intervened in the past. I do believe that. But unless God intervenes in a huge, mighty way, in 2016, this is the year it goes down. Now, if it doesn't go down, that means God intervened. And I hope it doesn't go down. That's a big reason I do what I do, to try to, push things back and wake more people up and have more people be proactive and have more people in prayer and these types of things. And hopefully more people getting saved, which is the most important thing. Because all of this is predicted in the Bible. So, going further, back to this report. The Illinois bill, H.R. 8055, titled Second Amendment Non-Individual Right, is far more dangerous in language and intent than the assault weapons ban of 2015. Because there is little chance the weapons ban will pass. That's his opinion. I very much hope he's right. And has a higher likelihood that the Illinois state bill will pass, considering the composition of the Illinois House stands at 71 Democrats and 47 Republicans. Okay, so, yeah. What if this is the reason they're doing this? What if it's getting everybody looking at this one thing, this unbelievable, unconscionable bill that they're trying to do to ban all assault weapons, but really, according to the one guy, it would take everything away other than single-shot pump action. What if that's really the real deal, is to get everybody focused on that, knowing that they're not going to try to push that through now, but then not very many people even thinking about what's going on in Illinois and having that pass. That could very, very much be the case. And you've got a House that stands at 71 Democrats to only 47 Republicans. The danger in this bill is that they are going after private ownership of guns. For if they can ban private ownership, they can take the next step and confiscate weapons legally owned now by making it illegal for private citizens to possess a firearm. And here's the full text. I'm not going to go and read it all, but you can read it here. I give you a link, plus I put it in it's in the body of this PDF. So the bottom line, the whole resolution is about restricting access to private citizens to legally owning weapons. They aren't going after specific weapons as the introduction of the assault weapons ban in 2015 at the U.S. House of Representatives. This bill is going after all the privately owned guns. Unbelievable. This is a beta test, but this is also the end goal of the Obama administration and the Democratic Republicans. And Obama's running out of time. He's running out of time. The clock's ticking. He's got to find a way to be that dictator for life. And if the UN is behind Obama, and they probably are, I mean, he's done everything I'm sure that has ever been required of him and more. then they may be saying, you know what, he's proved that he can cut the mustard here, and we're going to keep him in indefinitely. So this next year in America, we're going to do all this stuff, knowing that it's going to cause a civil war, knowing that it's going to cause, and we're going to activate all our ISIS sleeper cells, and we're going to divide and conquer. And Obama's in there for life, as far as we're concerned. But you know what? God is bigger than all of that. The Lord Jesus Christ is bigger than all of that. The Bible talks about coming boldly before the throne of grace to make our requests known. And I mean, if they're allowed to implement this, you know how many people are going to die? How many innocent children will die? Elderly, I mean, you name it. It's going to be wholesale mass carnage. And that's just one of the scenarios they can enact while this is going down. So, once they have banned private ownership, they will have given the state of Illinois the right to confiscate weapons from citizens that refuse to hand them over. And again, that establishes precedent. Just like they do a lot of things in California first, while now it appears they may be trying this here in Illinois first. For those who have been waiting for the next volley in the government's attempts to disarm Americans, this beta test is it. Now, I've been seeing this for a while now, 2016, and they're not even waiting to 2016. We're not even into 2016 yet, and I'm talking about this. Now, we're going to switch gears now and talk about something related, though. In some ways, this is related because it's all about controlling and chaos and evil and destruction. The system known as Goliath attacks Texas. Is Texas now under the weather warfare attack for opposing the New World Order globalist disarmament agenda for America? From the report entitled Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025, I believe this is straight from the government, says weather modification will become a part of domestic and international security and could be done unilaterally. The ability to generate precipitation, fog, and storms on Earth or to modify space weather and the production of artificial weather are all parts of an integrated set of military technologies. Straight from the government. I've been giving you these quotes for a long time. How they've had the ability to control the weather, at least since the 1970s. And probably going further back than that. And that they've admitted to. Okay? With the state of Texas now under deadly weather with new tornadoes that recently killed 8 in Dallas, actually that number's up, and at least 24 people that died in the U.S., as a pulverizing winter storm aptly named Goliath is spawning more tornadoes and bringing blizzard conditions to the southern plains, we take a look at the possibility that once again the state of Texas is being targeted with weather warfare for its long-standing opposition to the New World Order and the globalist disarmament agenda. I at this point, I firmly believe this, what we're seeing here. And they got the technology to do this. And uncompliant states will have to be punished, is really the thing here. And then we have updates. Texas Panhandle faces 15 inches of snow. Historic blizzard basically going on right now. Here's a map of that. And then Christmas twisters hit Texas, 11 dead. Freak holiday weather claims, this is just one of the main reports today, freak holiday weather claims 42 more lives, tornado death toll rises. I mean, I don't ever remember going through seeing tornadoes in like late December. Going through my life, I don't remember. You usually associate with the tornadoes with like spring and summer, maybe into fall, but not so much now we're into winter. Tornado death toll rises and 7 are killed in Alabama and Illinois. Flooding, heartbreaking photos. Flooding and tornadoes and severe thunderstorms. I mean, there was that tornado the other day. It was like longest ever recorded. It was on the ground for like over 2 hours. It was unbelievable. Went like hundreds of miles. It's incomprehensible. You know, you could say it's a judgment of God. Maybe a certain aspect of that is. But they also have the ability to create these things through these types of technologies they have. Flooding, tornadoes, severe thunderstorms, 42 people killed in 7 states since Christmas. Unseasonably warm weather starting on Wednesday helped spawn torrential rain and deadly storms across the South. I have the air on right now. I'm in the foothills of North Carolina. I have the air on. I mean, that is unprecedented. I've been up here 5 years, and I think, I've never seen anything like this, ever. I 100% believe that they are absolutely, this is some type of weather warfare that they are doing in America right now. And again, if Obama is getting desperate, and he is, then this is just one more tool in his satanic bag of evil that he is going to roll out against Americans. And this is going to be done most likely to a certain extent worldwide as well. But this is what we're looking at here. Whiteout conditions and snow drifts have already closed some highways in the Texas Panhandle, while historic snowfall totals are expected in nearby New Mexico. Parts of Interstate 40 west of Amarillo, Texas, Santa Rosa, New Mexico were shut Sunday. So going back to the main report, back on May 26th, Susan Duclos asked in a story on ANP if we were watching weather warfare against Texas unfolding before our very eyes after the severe drought, which then morphed into deadly storms and flooding, because they were in that huge drought for that period of time, and then all of a sudden it totally flip-flopped the other way, and they had all this historic flooding. Okay, and while the state of Texas was heavily involved in both resisting Jade Helm 15 as well as beginning the process of repatriating their gold from the Federal Reserve, if you remember that. So Texas is kind of like on the spear tip of resistance against the New World Order. And then he has a quote here, and it shows these tornadoes coming down in Texas, and he says, is it our imagination, or do the Texas tornadoes below look quite evil? And they really do. It looks like, I don't know, the way they're coming down, it looks like, if you turn a witch's hat upside down, it looks like that. They really are evil looking. Susan reminded us back in May that technology was available to leaders of major Western nations that enabled them to wage secretive and selective warfare upon the unsuspecting masses using a force believed to be off limits to the human race, which is the weather. And Zygmunt Brzezinski was quoted as saying, technology will make available to the leaders of the major nations techniques for conducting secret warfare, of which only a bare minimum of security forces need to be appraised. Techniques of weather modification could be employed to produce prolonged periods of drought or storm. That's just one of the many quotes regarding this. Weather warfare and weather modification used by the U.S. military exists. That's not an opinion. It is a fact as established by the Convention on Prohibition of Military and or other hostile use of environmental modification techniques, which was adopted by Resolution 31/72 of the United Nations General Assembly on December 10th, 1976. I quoted from that as well in my PowerPoint presentation I did on the avian flu, and was opened for signature at Geneva on May 18th, 1977. They've openly admitted to this. And here's a link if you want to click to find out the actual source. It's a UN document. There's a link there. So by 1996, a research paper was being submitted to the Air Force entitled Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025. So this research paper that I quoted from at the beginning was being submitted to the Air Force in 1996. So I mean, almost 20 years ago. So it was entitled Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025, detailing further research into the use of weather modification. And here's a link to that as well. The weather in Texas, you can see this whole document, Weather as a Force Multiplier. I'll give you the link to that. The weather in Texas at this very moment is being called extreme, and with parts of Texas and New Mexico forecast to receive snow totals between 18 and 24 inches, while the East Coast basks in record warmth, we certainly understand the question being asked. which is Texas once again under a global weather modification technology attack with a jet stream that appears to have been modified as seen in the photograph at the top of the story. You got to check this photograph out. I'm looking at this, and it's a weather guy in front of this screen, and it shows Saturday through Monday, which is the time frame I'm in with this recording, you know, December 26th, 27th, 28th. And it says Goliath attacks Texas. And it shows the jet stream. I have never in my life seen a jet stream like this drop. It's almost like in a teardrop shape. And it's going down, literally encompassing the state of Texas. It seems to be that is exactly. I've never seen, you see jet streams will dip. This is like the biggest dip I have ever seen, ever. This is weather warfare. They're doing this stuff on purpose, and they're doing it to punish Texas, essentially. They're doing it to try to weaken them, weaken their resolve, and also, I'm sure, they're beta testing what they can, you know, get away with. So going further, let's go further here. The first video below is a must-see for those who may have missed it, featuring Dane Wigington of Geoengineering Watch website. He takes a look at the jet stream modification, gives us much more proof about weather modification is very real. And we're going to take a look at about 9 minutes of that here coming up. Are we witnessing weather modification and weather warfare upon Texas for its standing against the New World Order? The remaining videos below Wigington's take a look at the absolutely bizarre weather in Texas from several different angles, including incredible footage from an airplane showing a Texas tornado supercell cloud, as well as new videos from Spiro and the BBC looking at the Texas carnage. Now, I'm not going to play those videos. Obviously, you need to watch them anyway, but I give you the link. You can view those. We also take a look at below at Steve Quayle's book, Weather Wars and Unnatural Disasters, a book that was clearly ahead of its time. A guy named Mikhail Chozdowski, professor of economics at University of Ottawa and the editor of Center for Research on Globalization, said, weather manipulation is a preemptive weapon par excellence. It can be directed against enemy countries or friendly nations without their knowledge, used to destabilize economies, ecosystems, and agriculture. It can also trigger havoc in financial and commodity markets. The disruption in agriculture creates a greater dependency on food aid, and imported grain staples from the U.S. and other Western countries. Now let's go ahead and play this. I think I have enough to squeeze this in here for this part.
We have with us Mr. Dave Hodges from...
Okay, that is not what I was wanting to play. I clicked on the wrong video. That will be the next video. Sorry about that. So let's click on this one.
My name is Dane Wigington from geoengineeringwatch.org, and our purpose of our site is to expose...
He's doing a PowerPoint presentation in the background, and you're hearing him speak, so I give you the link to this if you want to hear the full presentation. It's like an hour and 20. I'm just going to play the first 9 minutes because he covers a lot of different topics here that are pertinent to the subject.
The issue of global climate engineering, otherwise termed as geoengineering. We are virtually under assault right now. It's not alarmism, it's not exaggeration. This type of weather modification puts out chemicals and toxins, some known.
So he's talking about right now chemtrails, essentially. Now the government's admitted to this now. They admit they're doing this. They're calling it, though, geoengineering or climate engineering now. After all these years of saying it didn't exist, now they're openly admitting it. It's being taught in the textbooks, stuff like this, so the kiddies can learn about it. And it's climate engineering. The chemtrails, that term, oh no, that's for the crazy conspiracy theories, and that has no merit at all according to them. But he's showing pictures in the background of planes chemtrailing us like cockroaches and the different ways they do that.
Some not known. Many people who try to debate this issue, if they ask you why they should believe this is going on, we have film of it happening, end of the argument. That's it. There's no debate, no discussion. This is not speculation.
Here it's showing a jet flying, and they've got a really close-up of the jet, and it's literally just putting out puffs of chemtrails. Like looks like it'll put out like a football field and then it'll stop and then another one. If it was a normal contrail, meaning condensation trail of a plane, it would be constant. They couldn't just put out puffs of contrails unless the engines were basically going on or off. Okay, this is just one of the many ways they're trying to kill us and destroy the world and destroy the environment.
When we have films that we can clearly see are spraying, there's no denying that jet is spraying, period. We have interior films, or interior footage, which I'll show in a moment. But the bottom line is, that's not a condensation trail. Any notion that it is simply denial or complete ignorance. So this is, and you can even see on this jet, that each side of the plane, the plumes are different lengths, which means the nozzles are not aligned perfectly. You see different composition in the trail, also indicative of different materials being expelled from different portions of the aircraft. So again, this amounts to weather warfare, period. The U.S. has historically engaged in weather warfare around the globe. This is historical fact. We have data going back to Vietnam, 1968, Project Popeye. 1976, UN passed resolutions forbidding weather modification in wartime. So again, this is not speculation. We live in a society that's been trained to shut down when they hear the word conspiracy theory. They've been conditioned pretty well. But the bottom line is, this is the issue that can't be ignored any longer. People can ignore Kennedy, people can ignore false flag events like Vietnam and even whatever happened on 9/11, but this issue can't be ignored. When in the North State, for example, we turn on our water faucets and nothing comes out, that's the end of the road. This is very recent. This is from 2 days ago. Al Gore, use of geoengineering to head off climate change disaster is insane. So although we don't have an admission that's going on, it's getting closer by the day, and it looks like Al Gore is trying to now distance himself from these programs that he has not admitted to yet. This is important media. They'll be seeing more of this in the coming weeks. One interior shot there. Again, we can't know from the variants of different planes, the different configurations of spray apparatus. This is an ongoing experiment. There's likely many different configurations. We see aircraft trails that have different color composition. So this is an ongoing experiment of which we are all a part.
So he's showing different interiors of different chemtrail planes. These are just, most of them appear to be retrofitted passenger planes. Maybe planes that were, I don't know, decommissioned or whatever, and they've just been retrofitted for these various, tank after tank after tank, where they're just spraying us like cockroaches with this stuff.
Or not. Another interior, high-pressure tanks. When this image was posted, the sites that initially posted it, a couple of them were taken down. This image appeared to be tried to be taken off the net as quickly as possible, but too many people downloaded it. It's out there now. More configurations. Obviously, there's a whole lot of planes with a whole lot of tanks doing a whole lot of something. So
in other words, somebody that was actually had some semblance of a conscience left, or maybe they snuck on or whatever, they took these pictures. I mean, they're from multiple planes. You can't be, there's no way with the fleet that they've got that they can keep this under total wraps. There had to be leaks in there, and now there's just tons of them of what the interior of these planes look like.
This kind of footage should not be ignored. Clearly, these are what would appear to be passenger planes, most of them with windows. So there appear to be many different types of aircrafts involved in the spraying activities. This is what we have. Again, global geoengineering, the ever-changing experiment, and we are, again, part of that experiment. Russian scholar warns of secret U.S. climate change weapon. We have Russia engaged in this as well. We also have China. And this is one of the reasons why it's so hard to get any sort of mainstream coverage, because the big players are all involved up to their eyeballs. So that's one of the reasons the media coverage is so sparse, but it's coming. What do weather weapons do? They wreak havoc in countries without anybody knowing they're even under assault. In the case of floods, droughts, all of this is a form of weather weaponry and weather warfare. And there's no arguing that we are all a part of weather warfare when our climate is being impacted the way it is right now. Again, countries around the globe, this sort of impact, nobody would recognize as being an assault. And that's what's so prized about weather warfare for the powers that be. Nobody even knows they're being attacked. Bridges, infrastructure, wiped out.
See, it's the ultimate stealth weapon. Nobody knows they're being attacked. It's like, oh, who would ever even comprehend that? And this is, again, it's why it's so important for us to educate other people regarding this, because this is so mind-blowing. This is so, like, you know, but a lot of times this will serve as a tremendous ice-breaking tool where you can reach them with this type of information, which then can lead to you presenting them more truth, which hopefully will end up leading to them getting saved.
Literally bring a country to its knees. You can bring a state to its knees as well, especially a state that doesn't seem to want to conform too much with the federal government. You can drought them out completely, and that's exactly what's happening in California right now. This sort of drought in Africa has been used for decades. We know these programs have been going on, and their impact in Africa appears to be directly related to bringing countries to their knees and opening up the door for U.S. occupation. You have U.S. boots on the ground in about 156 countries around the globe. Not singling out the U.S. because other countries, again, as I said, are at this as well. Empty reservoirs. This is where California is headed today. I think we all know that. If we reach the end of this year without significant rainfall, we will be in free fall into a cataclysm that's never before been recorded. Our forests are going up in flames. As geoengineering impacts the system from top to bottom, it starts to feed itself. As you cut off the moisture for boreal forests, which are the lungs of the planet, the terrestrial lungs of the planet, and they begin to burn, that feeds into the entire climate cycle and begins to tilt it even further off scale. So this is a non-linear equation. Once it starts to tilt, it tilts faster and faster. These sorts of clouds historically have not been well recorded. Now they are. This sort of sky that many have become accustomed to and think is...
And this is the byproduct of chemtrailing, typically in the day, and then it turns into that haze way above us that basically where you can barely even hardly see through it. But it's not like normal cloud cover. They're not like, it's this big, and you know what I'm talking about. You just look up on a number of different days, and this is what he's showing a picture of here. This is so satanic, so abnormal, so evil. It's just tough to even comprehend it.
Somehow normal is anything but. This is an aerosol coverage all of you seem to have seen before, and many people have begun to accept this as being natural, but it takes a lot of material to block the sun to that degree, and all that material is settling down on all of us. We're all breathing it in. Anybody who thinks that's commercial traffic is in a different...
It shows that chemtrails literally in circle patterns. This has nothing to do with commercial traffic. Chemtrails fly crisscross to one another, and they do their grid patterns, and that's not the way commercial traffic would ever fly.
Reality. Somebody certainly lost their way up there. Another scene looks like something from another planet. Again, this is something that people, it's come on so slowly that many accept this as being normal and natural when it's anything but. One more scene that we see increasingly around the globe, especially in recent weeks and months. I'll explain why I think this is happening later, but the spraying is definitely increasing around the globe very rapidly, and the effects of that are being felt everywhere. Now, a sky like this is important to examine. Many people would think there's no spraying going on, but if you look closely, you'll see what looks like layers of plasma in the sky. Days with high-pressure domes like we have now over California, this is not uncommon, especially if you look toward the west in the evenings. These shorter trails that are very bright are still aerosol disbursements. They make the sky silvery white. We believe that these sorts of disbursements are related to making the air more conductive, which makes the ionosphere heaters, HARP, of which there are at least 24 around the globe, major facilities and many other smaller ones. It probably makes them more effective to create these high-pressure domes. So even days like this are aerosol saturated skies still.
So this is what enables HARP to work much more efficiently. The ionosphere heaters, HARP, and that's what's going on here. It's at least it's part of why they're doing it. They have found that the chemtrails a lot of times will consist of nanoparticles of aluminum, which is probably the number one thing that will cause Alzheimer's and dementia and these types of problems. So this is a way that they're actually dumbing down the populace. There's also a lot of alkalizing agents in there, which is hyper-alkalizing the soil, which is causing a lot of plant growth that could occur. It's not occurring. The plants are being stunted in their growth. It's hyperalkalizing the soil. It's poisoning the environment. It's poisoning the soil. There's ethylene dibromide in there, which is a unleaded gas additive. Barium. All of these are highly toxic. Most of them are cancer causing. And again, that's just a little sampling of some of the things that are in the chemtrails.
This is a point I want to drive home again because it's imperative in conveying legitimacy with our issue. Semantics matter. It absolutely matters. When people Google chemtrail, this is what they come to, chemtrail conspiracy theory. I have friends with the Union of Concerned Scientists that have tried to clarify this definition by stating that this is a layman's term for geoengineering. When that correction is made, within minutes, it's erased and deleted. They watch this site very, very closely. They want people to Google chemtrails and come to conspiracy theory.
So in Wikipedia, if you're trying to Google chemtrails, they're just going to, nutbag conspiracy theory, no merit whatsoever.
On the other hand, if you Google climate engineering, in the first sentence it clarifies that climate engineering is in fact an application of geoengineering. So we have science. And this is what media never uses. These terms they don't use. Our local media here has avoided these terms like the plague because they seem to feel their job is to distract people from the truth. We'll go into that deeper later, but again, semantics, extremely important. Climate engineering, geoengineering. Scientific terms leads people to science, leads to credibility. Who's running things? Psychopaths run the world. It's not an exaggeration. We have 4% of society is clinically psychopathic. That 4% ends up in positions of power, inevitably, because they'll do things that you or I won't do. So we have what appears to be a very small group of incredibly psychotic people that literally run the planet. And I would not have believed this 20 years ago, but after that many years of research, you simply can't come to another conclusion.
Okay, so that gives you just a little bit of background there. He goes a lot further into this whole subject, and I've covered this several occasions as well. Again, things to pray about, because this is a whole other satanic agenda that's being implemented every day, and this has the capability of just absolutely creating so much death, havoc, and misery. It boggles the mind. So that's all I have for part 2, and we will go to part 3 next. I think that should be the final part. So we'll see you in part 3.